Welcome to Global Kids Ministry under the leadership of Youth Pastor Carrie Royal, online every Sunday live at 12 noon. This exciting, creative, and interactive ministry fellowships at Kingdom Faith Global Ministries under senior pastors, Pastors Andre and Kim Sanders, every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 18240 Southwest 110th Avenue. Every fourth Sunday is Youth Sunday. All are welcome. Come and be blessed.
Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Carrie from Kingdom Faith Global Ministries, and we are here with another Kingdom Study lesson for you. We are in week 3 of our series, Head of the Class. So in this series, we have been shadowing Jesus' classroom to observe Peter's life of transformation, because everyone wants to move to the head of the class, right? Now, Jesus said we must love the Lord with all our hearts, with all our minds, with all our souls, and he has been teaching us how to do that. Now, Peter has been taking notes, and you can see that his transformation and his growth throughout the process. So you must be intentional about learning. That is one thing that we have learned. You must be intentional. Greatest teacher ever. And he wants all of us to succeed. He wants all of us to become great leaders because he loves us. And whether you're a learner that he learns by hearing, whether you learn by seeing, or even by hands-on experience, he has great effective teaching methods that incorporates all of those, because we receive the lesson, the demonstration, and the hands-on experience right in the lab. But he makes it personal for each of us. So we want to continue to learn, and we don't want to hold wrong feelings in our heart. That was what Peter was doing when he began to fear. Okay? So, and we also don't want to doubt, because that's a mindset. But we have to be able to love him with our heart, mind, and soul. And Jesus, as I said, was teaching us how to do that. Now, there was a field trip that Jesus took his disciples on. Only certain disciples, mind you. And that's why this lesson today is called Field Trip. And this lesson is about the transfiguration of Jesus. The Bible basis comes from Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 through 9. And we have a memory verse. We'll go ahead and read that together. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. That's Matthew chapter 22, verse 37. Now in this Bible basis, it was about 6 days before the transfiguration. Okay? Peter had acknowledged that he knew Jesus was the Messiah. So from that time on, Jesus had began to tell his disciples about what he had to suffer, many things he had to suffer, and he would be killed and he would rise again on the third day. He was preparing them. But Peter, not wanting to hear that, rebuked Jesus. He rebuked Jesus. As a result, Jesus rebuked Peter. And then he told Peter, you're not speaking from the Spirit, you're speaking from the flesh. And that everyone who follows him must take up their cross and follow him as well, because we have to die daily. So about 6 days later, Jesus went up to a high mountain to pray and took Peter, James, and John. And when they went, he went into prayer. And as they prayed, they fell asleep. And when they awoke, they found Jesus, who was transfigured. And his face shined bright as the sun, and his clothes was as white as light. And then they also saw with him the prophet Elijah and Moses. See, Peter told Jesus, it's good for us to be here. But get this, he wanted to make 3 tabernacles to honor them. One for him, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. And while he was speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice came from the cloud and saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. In other words, he's talking. Let him do the teaching. See, when they heard the voice, they fell to their knees in fear. And then Jesus touched them and said, Don't be afraid. So they opened their eyes, and it was only Jesus left standing there. And as they left the mountain, Jesus told them not to tell anyone what they had saw until he was risen. We're going to break this lesson up into 3 topics as we normally do. I can't wait to get into this lesson. The first topic is called Purpose of the Transfiguration. 2 is called Elevation. And then the third topic is called The Importance of Listening. Part 1, the purpose of transformation. Because it was a great field trip. What a field trip, right? Imagine waking up to witness a supernatural experience. First of all, when we wake up, we got to clear our eyes and make sure everything's right anyway, right? But this was exactly what happened to Peter, James, and John. Of course, once again, they were afraid and didn't know what to do, especially when they heard God's voice. But Jesus said, do not fear. See, remember the phrase, do not fear, was in the Bible 365 times. That means he's telling us every day, do not fear. Think about it. What they actually saw was 2 men who lived many, many, many years ago. So they were seeing dead people because they were still alive. They were seeing dead people walking on the earth. And then they saw Jesus in a different form from which they've ever seen him before. And his face was so bright, it shined bright as the sun, you could hardly look at him because you can't even really look directly at the sun. It's too bright. And his clothes were shining bright as light. So they saw a radiant, bright light, as bright as the sun and as bright as light, and 2 dead people. Somebody else might have thought they were losing their minds. But because they had reached a certain level, which we're going to get into later. But when they saw Jesus, who looked completely different, and Moses and them, they didn't know what to do. Can you imagine how bright that was? Can you imagine what an experience that was? So transfiguration, it does not relate to our character. It relates to what is being shown. Okay? It's completely different from the last question that was asked of Peter. See, the other 2 questions were, "O ye of little faith, why are you so afraid? O ye of little faith, why did you doubt?" This fear came from something that they witnessed in their spirit. And he's saying, your spirit, you shouldn't fear either. You shouldn't fear what's in your heart. You shouldn't you shouldn't hold fear in your heart. You shouldn't fear what the enemy's trying to tell you, what he's trying to feed into your mind. And don't fear what you see in the spirit. See, the other questions, going back to the why did you doubt, the last question, that was saying, why aren't you trusting me? Why are you doubting? What are you giving power to? Transfiguration strictly was about the appearance of something. Now, here, Jesus changed in appearance, and he gives us a glimpse of not only who he truly is, but also what we have to share in as kingdom citizens. Because that's who we are as well. We're not this flesh, as you see. We are spirit beings. Some of us happen to cater more to our flesh, which doesn't give the spirit the time and the attention it needs to grow. But that's who we truly are. So that was a glimpse of who he truly was and who we are as well. And Moses and Elijah's presence at that transfiguration of Jesus, it just represents the law and the prophets, see? Because Moses was the giver of the law. Remember, he went up to Mount Sinai and received the 10 Commandments from God. He was the giver of the law. And Elijah was considered one of the greatest prophets. And the fact that they spoke of Jesus' departure, which was the crucifixion, it shows that the law and the prophets pointed forward towards the Messiah and his sufferings. It was confirmation. So what Peter wanted to rebuke, Jesus allowed him to seek to confirm. Okay? And to top it off, then God spoke in an audible voice. Woo, Jesus. Can you even imagine? So this was one of the only 2 times that you could ever hear God in his audible voice speaking when Jesus was on the earth. And he was saying the same thing. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. What a field trip. What a field trip. What an experience. And it was all done to give his students another demonstration. See, what a great teacher will do for his students is just awesome. That's why I say Jesus, greatest teacher ever. All that was done to give his students another demonstration, because he wanted to make it clear. He wanted to make it plain. He doesn't give us any reason to doubt, any reason to fear. He wants to make it plain. And it revealed truth. See, when Jesus was telling the disciples about what was to come, I remember I said Peter tried to rebuke him, but he didn't want to hear it. And so the word says, blessed are ye who have seen and not believed. But sometimes we have to see to believe. And Jesus and the kingdom knows this. So as teacher, Jesus gives the lesson, the demonstration, and we receive the hands-on experience. But God does reveal. So just like he revealed the holes in his hands to Doubting Thomas, he reveals things to us as well. Just like he did to Peter at the Transfiguration. And he still reveals. He never changes. He is a never-changing God. He is always the same, yesterday, today, and forevermore. And the transfiguration of Jesus brought connection between what was said and what was to come. See, as a result of Peter, James, and John, they were able to receive a glimpse. They were able to receive a glimpse of Jesus' future glory. And when Jesus was transfigured on the mountain, it was a complete change of appearance. A complete change. The spirit is so different from this flesh. It's not the same. Not in any way. And that's how we have to do. We have to allow ourselves to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And as our minds are transformed and renewed, our soul, we become more, allow the spirit to be seen. And the light just shines bright through us as well. We have the same spirit in us through the Holy Spirit. He lives in us so that Jesus' light can shine as well through us. His experience became more beautiful and more spiritual, and it does the same for us. And once again, besides seeing Jesus, they also saw Moses and the prophet Elijah. They saw dead people, global kids. They saw dead people. But see, you can't reveal everything to everybody because everyone's not ready. But they were able to go on this field trip because they reached a point in their spiritual lives where the Spirit was revealing to them. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 16, verse 16 and 17. And Simon Peter answered and said, Thou art Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. So the Spirit reveals. And even after that, if you go on to read, that was when he said, Upon this rock, Peter, I will build my church. So Peter was still standing out. And when you learn to trust God, he can trust you. He can trust you with things and show you things and tell you things and reveal things to you that no one else knows, that he hasn't revealed to anyone else. See, because you're being purified, so he can trust you. You're taking on the character of the king, the mindset, the heart of the king. Everything is changing. So the teacher became vulnerable and showed them things in the spirit that others were not able to see. In fact, he said, don't even tell anybody about this until I'm risen. See, the experience of the transfiguration was meant to point forward to the sufferings Jesus was about to experience. It was meant to strengthen the disciples' faith. It revealed to them in a powerful way the divine hand that was at the work in the events Jesus had to undergo. And it separated them as well. It took them to a new level in the spirit. And that's what we have to do as we grow. We climb higher and higher to new levels. And now, Peter, James, and John was on a new level. Peter continued to stand out. And it revealed Christ's divinity. But light, because see, light represents holiness. Light represents goodness. Light represents God's revelation. And that's what they saw with Jesus' transfiguration. God's revelation, his goodness, his divinity, his spirit, his holiness. And Peter, James, and John were the only ones chosen for this field trip. See, because you have to reach a certain level first. But God knows. God knows what you are ready for and will allow you to experience what you need to experience in fullness of time. So take notes and allow the Spirit to transform you. And guess what? It is review time. We are reviewing part 1, Purpose of the Transfiguration. And in this section, we're going to be doing multiple choice. So we're going to be talking about the Transfiguration. The first question asks, the Transfiguration is a lesson about what? A, the heart, B, the soul, C, the mind, or D, all of the above? We're talking about the Transfiguration. It was a lesson about what? Go ahead and place your answers into the comments, please, and I will know that you are ready. Wonderful, Global Kids. Great job. Thank you, everyone. Yes, this one was a lesson about the soul. The Transfiguration was a lesson about the soul. We had already received the lesson about the heart when he began to fear on the boat. And then we received the lesson about the mind when he began to doubt on the boat. In the storm when he began to walk on water and began to sink. Now it's about the soul, because he said, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, soul, and mind. So all of it has to be changed. But now we have to allow all of it to grow. Number 2, who was transfigured? A, the teacher, B, the son, or C, Jesus? Who was transfigured? I'll wait one more moment for you, Global Kids. Go ahead and place your answers into the comments, please. Absolutely, absolutely great job. All of the above. Because remember, Jesus is our teacher. We're in his classroom. He is the teacher. He is also the son. So all of the above, because they are all the same person. Great job, everyone who said D. Thank you so much. Now we're moving on to number 3. What was different about Jesus? What was different about Jesus? During the Transfiguration, of course. What was different about him? Place your answers into the comments. A, was it his face shone bright as the sun? B, his appearance was light and bright. C, the clothes had become as white as light. Or D, all of the above? Remember what we said about his appearance and answer what was different about Jesus during the Transfiguration. Thank you so much, everyone. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All of the above. Because it was about his appearance that was light and bright, right? And his face shone bright as the sun. And his clothes was as white as light. It was all of the above. Number 4, this is our last question for this section. Number 4, this is our last question for this section of the review. What does light represent? Does it represent A, holiness? Does it represent B, goodness? Does it represent C, God's revelation? Or D, all of the above? What does the light represent? Place your answers into the comments, please. Great job, great job, great job. All of the above. Yes. Holiness, goodness, and God's revelation. Thank you so much. And that takes us to the second part of our lesson today, elevation. Because that's what learning is all about, elevation. We learn so that we can grow, right? And Jesus, greatest teacher ever, he prepares leaders. So up until this point, he walked on the earth and he led the people himself. Now he knew that once his season here on earth had ended, the disciples would be elevated to his position here on earth and he would have a higher position. He would return to heaven with his Father to take his seat on the throne. But when you increase what God gives you, he adds more. And as we receive, the more we receive, the more we're supposed to give to others. All right? Because it's all about helping one another. It's all about helping as a body. It's about the increase of the body, about the growth of the body. It's not about what I can give for me or what she can give for herself. We are one body, and we're supposed to be helpers one to another, and we're supposed to help one another grow. So, higher levels, they bring new, greater experiences. So, God promotes because we can't stay at the same level. We have to grow. Do either of you ever find yourself more so on the side where you're the one giving the help?
Yeah, it depends on what subject.
Most definitely.
Well, what's your favorite subjects?
Math.
Mine would be math.
Both of you math. Math was my favorite subject. Isn't that something? Well, you didn't follow math. What your field is healthcare?
Me?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm pointing like you can actually see my finger.
It's fine. My degree was in biomedical health and science with a minor in chemistry. So it had some math.
Okay. And what do you plan to do with that?
The long term, I'm trying to get my PA, physician assistant.
Physician assistant. And you hope, what do you want to do?
I'm in the business academy at Reeves, so I'm trying to get into like business management, hospitality, like hotel, cruise line, something like that, and then work my way up the total.
Okay.
But school, it sets you up for a path to just go further than you would without an education, because nowadays everything at least requires like a diploma or a GED. So like you try to get education so you can have a better life for yours, and if you want to have kids and everything like that.
And that's why he had to take Simon Peter to the Transfiguration. He also took James and John as well. But that's why they had to be there, because they had reached a level where they had to receive more. They had to grow to a new level. And see, he does and gives us what we need to grow. So when you've reached a certain point in your walk, God always reveals more. And that's what they were receiving. They saw the light because it was God's revelation. God will show you things. God will reveal things to you that no one else knows. See, and that's what the teacher was doing. The teacher won't allow you to see beyond what you're not strong enough to handle. But once you're strong enough, the teacher pushes and stretches you to achieve more. Okay? Because it's all about the fruit. We have to be able to reap a great harvest. But sometimes the stretch may cause fear or doubt, just like it did for Peter, even worry. But the negative mindsets, just know that the negative mindsets is the flesh warring with the spirit. See, Jesus had to show them how different the spirit was from the flesh. They are not alike at all. They don't mind the same things. They don't want the same things. They don't like the same things. They are just two completely different. They are opposites, complete opposites. And they war with one another. And the flesh wants to be comfortable and doesn't want us to stretch and grow, while the spirit wants us to grow so high that we can soar. Woo! The spirit wants us to soar. It wants us to fly. See, spirits were meant to fly. The flesh was meant to be grounded. It was made from the earth, from the dust of the earth. It came from the earth. It doesn't soar, it doesn't fly, but the spirit soars. And the flesh, it expresses those feelings to make us weighty, to keep us down, so that we will not grow, so that we will not soar. That's why we have to be aware. Like I said, you have to become aware of what's going on. So take notes. So the flesh expresses these feelings of discomfort and vulnerability because the spirit is trying to take you somewhere that the flesh is not meant to go. So they're warring because one is going to be dying, either your spirit or your flesh. And the flesh is supposed to die daily, not the spirit. But that's why it has to die, because it's not meant to go where our spirit goes. So that is why it's meant to die. We have to let it die. We cannot continue to cater to the flesh. We cannot continue to pamper our flesh. When the flesh wants, we have to learn to cater and pamper the spirit. Read your Bible more. When the flesh says, I don't want to, say, oh, well, I'm doing it anyway. Serve. When the flesh says, I don't want to, oh, well, do it anyway. Because it's the spirit leading you. The spirit wants to soar and grow. And see, they can't live together, the flesh and the spirit. They can't live together. They cannot live together. They need different things. The flesh wants to stay in the comfort zone, and the spirit wants to soar. But the teacher said, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And I'm going to keep telling you, do not be afraid. That is never going to change. So Jesus was showing them with this transfiguration, this is who I really am. And this is what you have to look forward to as well. What we believe is natural, this flesh. What we believe is natural is not really who we are. We're really what we saw in that transfiguration. God is trying to mature us to that because we are all spirit. And his spirit was so strong and bright that it shined so bright. It was so strong that you couldn't even look directly at it because it shined bright as the sun. That's how bright our light is supposed to be. People can't believe what they're seeing done through you. Because as Christ works, we have to serve so that Christ can be revealed, so that they can see the works of Christ. Because we're supposed to lead them to the kingdom. And that's what Jesus, greatest teacher ever, was trying to do. All right? So we need to make sure we stay nourished. And in the 16th chapter of Matthew, when he questioned the disciples about who they thought he was, Peter announced that Jesus was the Christ. He said in verses 24 and 25, listen to this. If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. See, then they didn't know what he was talking about. They couldn't know what he was talking about because they had not yet experienced more. But in the 16th chapter, the 25th verse, now he said, for whosoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. His transfiguration was another level of his transformation. It's another level of our transformation. So as Peter witnessed this, he was being transformed as well, allowing his spirit to grow. So he was saying, remember, I told you to deny yourself, deny your flesh, die to what you know so you can become what you see. Die to what you know so you can become what you see. You can become spirit. We are spirit. And your spirit is supposed to shine as bright as mine. Take up your cross and follow me. Then God's voice came from the clouds saying, this is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. Whew, hear him. So you too can become what you see. So you can become a strong spirit, not weak, strong. Take up your cross and follow me. All right. And it is review time. We are viewing part 2, elevation. And in this portion of the review, we're going to be doing true or false. So you just let me know. T for true, F for false. The first statement states, the teacher pushes you to stretch. Is that true or false? Does the teacher push you? Yes or no, true or false? Absolutely true. Thank you so much. That is absolutely true. And number 2, the teacher is preparing leaders. Is that true or false? That is absolutely true. Once again, thank you so much. Number 3 states, negative mindsets are the flesh warring with the spirit to hinder progress. Is that true or false? Great job, Global Kids. Thank you so much, everyone. Yes, that is true again. And the last statement, number 4, states, the teacher responds, don't be afraid. Is that true or false? Yes. Anytime you're afraid, the teacher is going to tell you, do not be afraid because we have nothing to fear. God is with us. And we are on the last section, part 3, the importance of listening. Now, when Peter witnessed the transfiguration, he began to offer suggestions that he thought would be pleasing to Jesus. Okay? But we all know the most important thing to do when we're in the middle of a lesson is to listen. Our job is to listen while the teacher is speaking, while the lesson's going on. It's good to ask questions, see, but his question wasn't really a question that because he wanted to learn. He was making suggestions. And Jesus, greatest teacher ever, he has all the information. See, the Spirit is going to lead you on what to do. We don't have to start trying to figure it out. What did I tell you? We don't have to try and figure it out. Even in the first lesson in this series, we were talking about how the Spirit does not want you to do more than you know. All is expected of you is what has been taught. So now he was being taught a new lesson, and he started offering suggestions. But we have to learn how to listen. We must listen. Listen and take notes. See, Peter was afraid that he didn't know what to say. So he said the first thing that came to his mind. How many of us do that? Sometimes we just say the first thing that comes to our mind. But the first thing that comes to our mind is not always the right thing to say. Sometimes we must be silent. Just say nothing. We don't always have to speak. We don't always have to speak. See, he said, if you like, we can build 3 tabernacles. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. That was not the purpose of the lesson. If you be still, be quiet, and listen, you can get the purpose of the lesson. Just take notes. Don't try to figure it out. It is actually what I'm showing you. You ain't got to try to read between the lines. Jesus, greatest teacher ever, he will make it plain. So, we don't always have to speak. Sometimes it's better just to listen. And we need to know when to speak and when to listen. All right? God interrupted him. He interrupted Peter while he was trying to speak. He didn't say, all right, Peter, we're going to listen to what you got to say. Since you got something to say, no. He interrupted him. In other words, be quiet and listen. Be quiet. There's a lesson you're supposed to be learning, so be quiet. Listen, take your notes so you can grow. I'm teaching you. Be still. See, in your quietness, in your stillness, in your meditation, that's when you're closest to him. And he's going to speak to you. You're going to be able to hear him. See, you're not listening if you're talking. That's why when we pray, we have to take time and be quiet and be silent after prayer. Because when we're speaking, we're not listening. So when you finish, you can give God time to speak. You'll be able to hear as well. You just have to open your heart to hear. So Jesus, he has something to say. He has something to teach us. And Moses and Elijah also had to be there. Because it was about the past being connected with the future. See, prophecy foretells what is going to happen. And he brought the giver of the law and one of the greatest prophets to bear witness of this transfiguration. They all came together. Their spirit was on one accord as they were speaking of this, of what was to come. And see, they were as he stopped speaking, he was able to get it. You know he was able to get it because Jesus said, now don't tell anybody about this. See, he ain't got to warn somebody not to tell anybody about something that they don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on, you ain't got nothing to tell. But so that's why we have to listen. We have to meditate on him. We have to be quiet, hear him, and meditate. When we listen, we're learning. We listen to learn. And we learn by teaching. So Jesus, once again, greatest teacher ever, has some things that he wants to teach us. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 8, it tells us to meditate on the word day and night. And then again in Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, David said, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And in his law doth we meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. And his leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." David wanted closeness with God. And he was a man after God's own heart. He heard God often because he listened. He often asked God before he took any ventures, "God, do you want me to do this? Is this what I'm supposed to do?" He sought the kingdom. And we have to seek the kingdom as well. We have to listen. And see, that's how he was led into many victories. David knew that those victories and his prosperity came from listening to God. Came from listening and seeking the kingdom. So when you reach new levels, you don't have to fake like you already been there. You don't have to fake like you already been there. It's okay to be nervous. Just be quiet and listen, but don't be afraid. But he didn't have to butter him up. Jesus allowed him to be there for a reason. You have to realize, know that God takes you and allows you to be where you are for a reason, even in your high place. Even in the high place, you are there for a reason. And it's not because of who you are. It's not because of what you're able to do, but because of what he sees in you. Okay? He is still in control. He calls the shots. So let him do it. And let him take you where he wants to lead you. We just listen. So listen, because God will tell you what he wants you to know and what he wants you to do. He doesn't need our suggestions. In this case, it was just to listen. And guess what? All right, everybody, it is time to review our final section, part 3, the importance of listening. In this section, we are going to be saying why it's good to listen. So the letters are going to be popping up. See if you can figure it out before the letters are completed. All right, you may begin. Absolutely. Everyone said it's good to listen because we learn. Excellent. Great job, great job, great job. And we have one more. You may begin. Yes, thank you so much once again. Absolutely. It is good to listen so that we can hear God. Because in hearing him, he's going to reveal some things. We're going to be growing closer to him. He's purifying us. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. But this has been a great lesson. We're going to review our memory verse one more time. It comes from Matthew chapter 22, verse 37. Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind." All right. Thank you so much. It was such a great lesson today. Thank you so much for your participation as well. But yes, always remember that we need to love the Lord with our heart, mind, and our soul. And let yourselves be renewed, transformed. Because that's what the teacher is trying to do. Because Just like he was transfigured and his face shined as bright as the sun and his clothes were as bright as light, we have to shine that strong as well so that we can lead others to the kingdom of God. Jesus, greatest teacher ever, he is preparing leaders, and he wants to take us on a field trip to reveal new things. He wants to reveal us to us as well, because that's what he does. He reveals his goodness. The light is his goodness, it's his holiness, and it shines through us. And as he reveals to us, we can grow, we can mature. He takes us to higher heights and higher levels. That's what he wants us to do. We have to grow. Everything living has to grow. So let your spirit be the one that grows above your flesh. All right, but thank you for joining us today. As always, I love you, and we're going to end up this series next week. So stay tuned. But thank you. Have a great week. Be blessed. Bye.